just going to give it another minute or two to see if anyone is joining. So it's nice to see so many familiar faces, even if I've not literally seen your face, but really happy that you could be here today. So we'll just give it another minute before we get started. All right, let's jump in and get started. Again, welcome everyone. I'm excited that we'll have two guests with us today, so I'll introduce them in just a few minutes. But I want to thank you for joining our third conversation of 2024. I'm Ann Gaasch, the CEO here at FamilyWise, and I'm happy to be here with you today to share some news and updates about the work that we're doing in partnership with families and communities. I'm sure you can all imagine, but fall is a very busy time at FamilyWise. On August 6th, in August, 6 preschoolers graduated from our First Step Early Childhood Education Center. It is always a bittersweet moment for our teachers, and they make these beautiful personalized scrapbooks for every graduate. And we're really excited to know that all of these kids are ready for all that kindergarten has to offer. In September, our staff team came together for our annual all-staff retreat. As always, we do some fun activities and we work on getting to know each other better and work across departments. We spent quite a bit of time exploring how our strategic priorities apply to each unique department. And we grounded ourselves in our individual and collective values as part of a training on worldview that was facilitated by Dave Ellis. The worldview training was part of a deep dive on diversity, equity, and inclusion that kicked off in June. And we plan to continue to spend time at each all-staff meeting on DEI topics in the coming year. Our staff have also prioritized that we revamp our onboarding process to ensure that it sets a baseline of knowledge for all of us around DEI work. And as many of you may know, in the past year, we expanded our leadership group to go beyond kind of just people with kind of positional leadership to ensure that we have a cross-section of the organization that's deeply involved in our key business decisions. And as part of that DEI work, staff have recognized that they would like more information from us on kind of organizational decision-making, and in particular, sharing with our whole staff team, not just that leadership team. We're excited to kind of bring forward some of these changes as part of our strategic plan and our goal of kind of creating a culture of reflection. This has also been a time where we've been very busy with hiring. We have several new team members joining us in key roles, including a new supervised parenting manager and a Bright Beginnings program manager. And that's a new position this year. So I want to welcome Mara and Jackie, and I'm excited because I'm sure you will meet them in upcoming calls. Because of some of the growth that we've experienced in the past year, we're also hiring for program staff in supervised parenting and parent education and wraparound, as well as a few positions in our admin teams. So if you know of great candidates, please have them take a look at our website. We'd love to welcome them to our team. Another upcoming thing, another thing that's happened recently that was very exciting was that in September, I had the opportunity to join Dr. Bravada Garrett-Akinsanya to talk with Angela Davis on NPR about the importance of community supports for parents and families. The conversation was prompted by the recent publication of an advisory on parental mental health and well-being by the U.S. Surgeon General. You know, we've talked about it here for a number of years, and we've personally seen the impact through our work of economic instability on families. And we've also really witnessed the rising stress that parents experience around children's mental health, community violence, social media, and more. I am so grateful that the U.S. Surgeon General is shining a spotlight on this issue that affects all of us as parents, family members, and community members. We continue to grow our advocacy efforts in partnering with a coalition focused on child abuse prevention. And with technical assistance from the Minnesota Department of Health, the coalition is preparing a legislative proposal for funding for primary prevention of child abuse. We are also working with Prevent Child Abuse America's Government Affairs Initiative to explore ways to communicate with legislators regarding the importance of some concrete supports for families. And speaking of Prevent Child Abuse America, in case you missed it, last month we published a blog post about their vision for a comprehensive primary prevention ecosystem as laid out in their 2023 theory of change. We really appreciate the holistic framework they've created and feel that it aligns with our goals to grow a unified child prevention movement in Minnesota, ensuring the health and well-being of all children and families. And so lastly, in my updates, with the end of the year approaching, we are busy preparing for year-end fundraising. At FamilyWise, that includes two key events. First, this month, we kicked off our Gifts of Community program, which was formerly called Adopt a Family. The program matches donors, including individuals, families, corporate and community groups, with holiday wish lists of families participating in our programs. This year, we anticipate our generous sponsors fulfilling the wish lists of over 400 people. And then in December, our staff and volunteers will coordinate gift drop-off and delivery to families who are so appreciative. As one participant shared, I can't believe that someone who doesn't even know me would want to make sure that my family and I had a great holiday. Also in December, we will be participating in the 36th annual Radiothon to End Child Abuse, an event that raises over $100,000 in 48 hours in support of local and statewide programs that support families. This event is a partnership between FamilyWise, Hubbard Broadcasting, and over a dozen family-serving organizations across north central Minnesota. In addition to raising funds, it raises awareness of the role we can all play in supporting families in our community and in preventing child abuse and neglect. I'm very excited to see some of our partners from Hubbard on the call today, and we are so grateful for their support over the years and for the leadership that they share in their community around this issue. We look forward to these fun and meaningful fundraisers all year. And this year, individual donations are particularly important to us. In recent months, several of our longtime foundation partners have shifted their processes or priorities in ways that have resulted in FamilyWise being funded at reduced levels or not at all due to becoming ineligible. As a result, we've lost over $60,000 in general operating support we were counting on for the year. We know that more shifts could be coming, so we are budgeting foundation revenue more conservatively for 2025 as a precautionary measure, and we continue to diversify revenue streams. So now I would like to kind of turn from our organizational updates to a conversation with our special guests. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Many of the families we partner with have experienced intergenerational cycles of family violence. At FamilyWise, we support families in gaining stability, knowledge, and skills to break those cycles. Today, we have Parent Support Services Coordinator, Charlene Washington, and Supervised Parenting Coordinator, Jocelyn Chavez, with us today to talk more about this important topic. So I think maybe the place to start is to start with, like, how do you support a parent who has been a victim of domestic violence? Jocelyn, would you like to jump in, and then we'll turn it to Charlene?
Yeah, I can start. Hi, guys. Nice to meet you guys all. I'm Jocelyn. I'm the intake coordinator for Supervised Parenting Program. Some ways that we support a parent who's been a victim of domestic violence is that we offer a safe environment for the visiting party and the child to see each other. We also have a separate, at our Minneapolis location, we have two separate parking lots where one visiting party will park on our west, and then our custodial party will park on our east parking lot, so they don't come in contact with one another. We also provide a 15-minute waiting period, so the visiting party always has to arrive 15 minutes prior to the visit start time, so they don't run into the custodial parent in case there's an active order for protection or DANCO or anything like that. Also, after the visit, we also have them wait 15 minutes after, so the custodial parent has enough time to leave the premises without them running into each other as well too. And then some, just basic kind of ways that we could support a victim of domestic violence, just offering resources. A lot of parents come to us asking if there's any housing or anything like that. And most of them, most important, they just kind of want to be listened and kind of heard about their situation as well too.
Thanks, Jocelyn. That's fantastic. And I think it really highlights, I think sometimes we think about domestic violence and our ideas about it sort of end. We think, oh, it ends when the relationship ends. But for people who are co-parenting, they have that tie together for the future as well. And so having that place that can help provide some separation and some safety is so critical. And Shirlene, I know that you also work with a number of families that have been impacted by domestic violence. What are the ways are there different ways that you would support a parent, or what are you seeing from families? And I think you're still on mute.
Got it.
Perfect.
I work in the parent support outreach program, and we do work directly with the parents and giving them resources and helping them. And a lot of them have different situations, and many of them are going through domestic violence. The main thing that we are present with them, listening to them, not judging them, more so a person that they can vent to and a shoulder to lean on, someone they can trust once the trust is made. I talk to them about seeking outside support, different services if they feel, if they want to go to like a domestic violence shelter or center, I'll offer to take them. I have before. And then also there's like different groups. I'll like give them resources to different groups to talk to for support. They also have online in case they don't want to go in person. Yeah, that's pretty much what I do. Just offer as much support as possible and resources if they need it. It's a process. It might not always end the way that I want it to, but at least so that they can know that there's somebody there to support them.
That's great. And I mean, I think you sometimes can't know impact you have or when somebody's kind of take action on the support that you've given, even if you're not still involved. So that's a really good point. Yeah. And so how do you think domestic violence has affected the parents you see?
It changes the parent. They can't fully be who they are, if that makes sense. They can't fully be themselves, and which means they really can't fully be a parent sometimes. Because of this, they can't be present and support their family as they would want to or should, and a lot of them lose confidence. That's like a big thing. And they feel like they're not a good parent, or because they can't stand up to the person or leave the situation. They second guess themselves a lot and often feel like they don't have any support. And so a lot of the relationships they have are altered. Like a lot of their support, distance themselves. So they're kind of like alone. So that kind of has a big impact.
Which, I mean, given what we've just been what we talked about around parental isolation and stress, to have that compounded by domestic violence is just so much harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jocelyn, is there anything that you would add? How have you seen it impact parents?
Just to add, like some parents, they might be in distress or even suffering with their own mental health to a point they don't even realize that it's impacting them. So sometimes, especially with the visiting parties, because we deal more with the visiting parties and supervised parenting time, sometimes they don't even realize what the problem is yet. They're still kind of in denial what's happening. So, once, it comes to a point where they're in supervised parenting time for a long time, they come to a realization like, they have to get their stuff together and do what they got to do in order to get their family kind of back and see their child outside of supervision.
Well, and I mean, that makes me think too, Jocelyn, that I think sometimes when I talk with people in the community, their sort of take on it is if somebody's been abusive, should they even see their kids? Do they have the right to see their kids? Should somebody who's perpetrated domestic violence against their partner be able to see their kids? And what if their children were present and witnessed or even experienced the violence?
Yeah, I feel like this is a very sensitive topic when it comes to families and scenarios about if, the kids should be allowed to see the parent who was doing the domestic violence. I feel like each situation is different. That's why supervised parenting time is, here to offer those safety measurements for the child and the parent to see one another in a safety environment. No one says it's going to be easy, but I feel like with time and support groups, it could be something that it is happening in real life where parents are seeing their children with those scenarios.
And just to follow up, Jocelyn, because I know that you do a lot of training with staff, especially in those situations where there's domestic violence, to kind of ensure the safety of the child during the visit and even after the visit. So thinking about how do you interrupt conversations that might be going after sort of the location of where the family is living now. Is there anything you would add about that with how you make sure that kids and parents are safe during those visits?
So for our visiting parties, we do have our policies, which are in place, and we expect parents to kind of read over before the visits begin. So it's just to kind of stay away from conversations about the past or any making future promises or anything, or talking about the other parent, or trying to ask the children for information where it's not age appropriate or anything like that. So we do have a lot of rules about trying to keep the conversations age appropriate and kind of keep it in the present and more about the child, like, how's school been? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite movie that you're up to these days? And trying to keep the conversation positive as possible.
Okay, thanks. And Charlene, is there anything like, what do you say when people bring that up to you? Because I also imagine as you're working with families and communities, you're hearing that same concern.
Yeah, I think it depends on the type of concern. It is a very tough topic and situation. Whether the child will be safe with that parent or not, because sometimes it's against the other parent and not the child, but at the same time, the child is still like traumatized, if they see it, so they might feel some type of way. But I think that, that supervised parenting and third party, I usually suggest that they do something like that if they feel there's a safety concern. So yeah, I think, and sometimes the children have acted out at school because of it, or different places. So it's tough. And I think the kids should be in some sort of therapy, even if they weren't abused, but if they seen their parent get abused, it's still a lot for that child. So, and it can be a cycle. But yeah, I have seen a lot where the kid starts acting out and the parent is concerned about that. But yes, definitely a third party supervised parenting.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you're so right. As you're seeing children who are kind of experiencing the impact of domestic violence, we have an amazing opportunity to like intervene and to help them heal and to break that intergenerational cycle. So thinking a little bit about the kids, what do you think that children who have experienced domestic violence might need that's different than other children?
Continued support, therapy, because there's gonna be some PTSD, some trauma, or physical or mental health problems. They might have triggers, that they don't know, but once they're older, they will know. So I think it's important that if people know that they've been through this, they have to be mindful of certain things or what they say, because it can be hard for a kid to connect with adults, especially if the adult doesn't know the background of the child. So, yeah.
And Jocelyn, what would you add? Is there anything that you see in the kids that you would want to make sure people know about?
I think just a lot of kids, they just need more like reassurance, especially when they experience that, sometimes they might experience like, oh, my parent doesn't love me or something like that. So just kind of making them feel loved and heard and not, just in the background.
And I think probably some consistency as well, so that, and like knowing that there's some safe adults that they can trust. And how do you build that, giving them the time to build that relationship, because it can take time for, like you said, time for a child to trust in a different way. And so then for families, are there things that you see that might be different, or that we should be, especially as a community, that we should be thinking about in terms of how we support like what the needs are for a family that's experienced domestic violence.
Oh, I can go. I guess just a lot of patience, understanding, and listening with non-judgment. Because like I said before, it might not go the way you want. There's been times where we made appointments to go to the shelter and they would change their mind. So we can't, judge them for that because, they were like nervous or scared. And they're probably going to be like unstable, but they just need some support and some positivity and people around them, I think, and make sure that everything is confidential. They might have a hard time trusting others and building and forming healthy relationships. So that those are some different things that they have than other families.
Anything you would add, Jocelyn?
I think what Charlene said was good. Just having that support system be there for you. Just being non-judgmental and just kind of being there for the person. And whenever they're ready, they'll be ready.
I think it's another way in which we have to, as professionals involved with families, trust the family voice and choice and their wisdom. Like they might have some really deep-seated knowledge about like why what we think would make them safe won't make them safe, or why they're making the choice that they make, and really having to kind of trust them and trust their sense of timing. I think it's just kind of fits with kind of the rest of the way that we work with families. But I also think, like from the work that we do, I think there's no more basic right of a child than the ability to safely see their parent and have a relationship with their parents. And I just am so grateful for the work that you both do and your teams do to ensure that that continued opportunity exists for kids. So, and I hear, like, I think one of the things that comes up a lot in the surveys we do with our participants is how important that non-judgmental space is, that sense of like, because so many other people in their lives are either judging them or have opinions, and to have some space to be able to think it through for themselves and to make decisions that fit for them, it's just so critical. And to feel like you're still going to be there, you're not going to take that support away if they make a decision you don't agree with. So I just want to thank you both and thank you for your conversation today. And then we have a few minutes left, so I'd like to open it up for if anyone has any questions about kind of our approach around domestic violence, or about anything else I shared today, or any other questions about FamilyWise. I'd love to open it up. And I think it's just okay if you take yourself off mute and ask. You could raise your hand if you really wanted to, but you can just speak out if you'd like.
How do the families get referred to you?
Oh, so how do the families get referred to us? So Jocelyn, can you talk a little bit about for supervised parenting?
Yeah, for supervised parenting time, we have either child protection referrals that we get from different counties to do supervised parenting time. Otherwise, we just get them from family courts, which is our private pay families that are referred for supervised parenting time.
And Charlene, for parent support outreach?
Same. We usually get referrals from the different counties that we serve. We serve like Hennepin, what are all the counties? Anoka, like all of them, Washington. So we usually just get referrals from there. Or sometimes even with they have a habit where you can do a self-referral. So if you go like on the website, either our website for FamilyWise, or if you go on like your county website, they'll have a link where you can do a self-referral into the PSAP program. And then for in-home parenting too, sorry, they also do, the social workers will refer.
When they're referred and they don't come to somebody and try to get help, then what happens to them?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Well, do they get penalized from the county if they don't come to you for some help?
No, it's for our program, for our referral program, it's it's an option. It's optional, except
it's
for the
an
in-home.
option.
Yeah, it's optional. You don't have to do it. But for the in-home, usually that's not an option because usually it deals with child protection or some sort of a court order that they need some educational classes. So they are required to do those. But for the parent support outreach program, they're not required. It's not mandatory. They can opt out at any time.
And do some opt out more quickly than others?
No,
From your-
usually they need help. Usually they need help, so they don't. I have had some people opt out, but that was because they might have been on the wait list too long and then didn't need the services anymore.
Oh,
So I
But
think
yeah,
like once a family is engaged or is kind of enrolled in the program and participating, then they typically stay. But you might see if there was a long period of time that they were waiting before they got into the program, then we might lose them. And I think that's probably true for supervised parenting as well. And I think to your question, Arlene, about like what happens if somebody in supervised parenting doesn't follow through. I mean, usually there's a court order involved. So we would work with the parent that is like trying to comply and trying to be a part of it and remind them of sort of their legal options and help them kind of get back connected to services so that the judge is looking at the fact that they're not participating. So.
well, I would think then they would get their children back quicker or feel better about going back to the parent after having your help. That's what I was wondering.
I think the children definitely, like the staff are really amazing at creating a safe space for the kids
Right.
and really being in tune with what their needs are so that if, and I think even in extreme situations, we'll work on a safe word with the child so that they don't have to say directly, I want to end the visit, but they can say something like, I had a banana for breakfast, and the staff knows that that's kind of their cue that they're uncomfortable and they want the visit to end. So we work really hard on making sure that children feel safe. I want to make sure, is there anyone else that has any questions as well before because we have just a couple minutes left.
You feel that there's a lot of honesty of the children and the parents in your interaction, or do you see some just be nice because they're there and have to be? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Shirley
would.
knows what you mean. I can see that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jocelyn.
Yeah, I would say at least for supervised parenting time, a lot of families think that we work with the courts or are part of, their case plan. So I always like to remind them, like, we're not a part of, anything related to that. We're just here to support that third-party supervised parenting time. So a lot of parents do, when they first arrive, they have a lot of pushback where they don't want to be there, or sometimes it is, the first visits are always kind of a little bit awkward when, you have someone there kind of observing you throughout the whole visit. So a lot of families feel uncomfortable the first couple of visits, but then once they notice, that we're here to just kind of be supportive and provide that safe environment, they kind of, settle down and kind of start, I guess, opening up and, just kind of being nice about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you just got to
How do
build
you
that trust and
how do
rapport.
you get rated for success? I mean, how do you see that you got success with the family?
So how do we define success?
Yeah, how do you define success?
And so I think in supervised visitation, we use a number of measures. I mean, I think one is visitants that are occurring safely and without incident, and then parents getting more parenting time or moving to kind of less restrictive forms of visitation. And then in our parent education goal program, the family set specific goals. And so we're measuring success on how they're achieving their goals, what matters to them. Is that, Charlene or Jocelyn, would you add anything to that? Or do you think those are good ways of defining it?
Yeah, those are good.
Great. I
Well,
do want to
think
respect
we
everyone's
wanna
time, and I know it is 12:30, so
Thank
um,
you so much. You're doing so much. And so grateful for a dream I had a long time ago. Which someday, maybe you'll know why we started the program, right, Ann?
that's right. So
Very complicated.
for those of you who don't know,
Back when I
even though Arlene
volunteered,
says Ann Gaasch, that's actually Arlene Nystuen, who is one of our founders. So we're really excited to have you here today, Arlene. And it always feels really good when you're like, yep, you guys are still on the right track. It just feels really
Yeah.
great to hear that. So,
Darn.
all right. Well, thank you everyone else. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you especially to Jocelyn and Charlene, not just for taking the time today and but for the amazing work that you and your teams do every day with families. You're such an amazing, valuable asset for families. So thank you very much. And thank you to all of you for joining us today. We couldn't do this work without you. So we really appreciate your time and attention today. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, Ann.